Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust and Transparency. Today it's another buyer's agent review. He's engaged the buyer's agent and he wanted to get my second opinion on this. Now, what was cool was that he actually asked me for what my price is to do these reviews. I think if I can do it as a learning experience for all of us, that is going to be the value that I can deliver and get from it anyway. So free of charge, this one, you'll see as we dive into this deal exactly why. So let's jump straight into it, shall we? So for full disclosure, the address 38 Chivalry Drive, Marupna, Victoria 3629. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car. Let's dive into a few photos so far. So as we can see, relatively new build. This is pretty standard inside. Can see that in December 2023 it was actually a block of land, so it tells me it's a very new build. It's only a couple of years old, and I hope the fact that there is depreciation benefits isn't used as part of the marketing. And it is at the front of a natural swale, which bit of an amber flag for me. Apart from that, it's a very decent block size. Now, to get your bearings, Marupna, I hope I'm saying that right. I know people in the comments will come at me if I'm not. I had that the other day with another Victorian suburb. But this is west of Shepparton, so over the conservation reserve, and in what is particularly a new house and land package area. Now, obviously, the land value is something we need to worry about, and it's not just these like 300 square meter blocks of land. So the block size is okay. What I can see, good proximity to park. I'm just interested here about this nature reserve, but before that, because it is a relatively new suburb or this area, I want to look at the data for Marupna, hope I'm saying that right, to see if it gives us any indication if it is a high performing suburb data wise. Let's jump into the data. As always, I'm working on H-tag here. If you want an access code, let me know in the comments. So we can see the typical buy price. Now, the instructions sent through said they have agreed on a $630,000 sale price. So quite above the typical price for this area. Not an issue. Let's scroll down. So one thing I noticed up here is that there is a fair bit of risk in this particular suburb with potentially great cash flow. So another amber flag as well is going to be the performance of this suburb over the last 10 plus years. Prior to COVID, the suburb had done nothing, hadn't even reached 5% in growth. Now, again, in this data and the previous data, past performance is not indicative of future performance. However, we only have past to go off. We don't have future data. So for here, I'm thinking this is a very long, slow, steady burn up, not doing a lot, which is, can you find better price options for 630? 100%. And in Victoria, guaranteed. Next amber flag is the ERSAD is at 1. So that's the socioeconomics of the area. 10 is the most affluent, 1 is the least affluent area. So it tells me this is bottom end, 31% rented to owner ratio, which is probably in line with what we would see in this area. Affordability wise, it's right on 30 years to own, which is typical as well. From a supply perspective, supply is decreasing, inventory is decreasing. However, my main issues are going to be with days on market and vacancy rates. So stock is tightening up, but it's telling me days on market, 78 days on market. Huge. Think about that. That's almost 3 months on market. It's not only increasing over the long term, over the last 5 years, but short term is also increasing. Last month alone, 114 days on market. How many listings? 9 listings. Vacancy rate. So vacancy rate pretty much from 2023, April 2023 has been increasing. which is not a good sign. So it's telling me that although the stock that's dropping off, it is potentially not being picked up and or rented out. So it tells me that there may not be the population there and the need for these new properties. So there is a bit of a risk there around it staying vacant for long. And remember, if we don't have that nosediving days on market, there is no demand for people to buy. And if there's no demand for people to buy, how can house prices in this area, over a short-term time frame increase in value? I can't see how that can happen, especially with this data point, 80 days on market. So for me, I'm not seeing positive signs in that area. The growth, the days on market, would I buy here for that $600,000 price range? Definitely not. Now, what makes this worse, and I take this into, I'm using Land Checker here. I use this for my development sites, but I've known it to be good use to check my layering too. So the first thing I'm going to do is put on bushfire prone land, which, as we can see, it is very close to becoming bushfire prone land. So, I mean, ideally, I don't get close to this zoning, but anyway, I throw flooding into the mix. So, as you can see from the flooding maps, this is telling me that we've got some issues here. Now, although it appears that the property is slightly affected by flooding, I don't like being this close to flooding, because you're the first property. If this goes above and beyond any sort of flood levels, you are the first property to be flooded and inundated. So for me, that's also a bit of a red flag. I thought I'd do some more due diligence. Now this is the SES flooding map of Shepparton. If you're new here, you want to check out my other deals that I've reviewed where it seems that buyers agents can't find this map. However, what we can see here is that this is the park and this is the block here, just right of the lake and this above the second horizontal road, this block here. So I don't like my chances there. And if I zoom in on this map, this particular map here, this is another map to just have a look at the flood predictions. It tells me that in Marupna, this is that flood causeway next to it. This is that park that's on the right-hand side, and this is the flood. So for me, it's bang on. It might not be inundated yet. However, it is, I would classify that as high risk. I think when I pair that with the data, the days on market, and the fact that there just doesn't look to be too much demand for this particular suburb, I personally wouldn't buy this deal. $600,000, there are so many better markets in Melbourne at the moment for bang for your buck that aren't bang on flood zone, that don't have that sort of bushfire risk or that zoning, that have days on market that are decreasing, that have vacancy rates that are decreasing. That tells me people want to buy there. If people want to buy there, there's competition for prices. It's good. If things are at the moment, like last month, or averaging 80 days on the market, it tells me that there's not a lot of competition there for pricing. So how can we see an increase in pricing in the short term? Now, I don't know what the brief was for this particular property. However, I think with those things laid on top of each other, it's a no deal for me. As always though, if you've got a deal, feel free to send it through. You can contact me on Messenger, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm happy to do a review like this for you to give you my 10 cents and my thoughts and opinions. As always guys, I'll see you tomorrow.